to the fourth session of Communicative English. By now, you must be remembering my name. My name is Dr. Archana Durgesh from the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences, BBT University. And I'm going to share my views today in continuation on your subject, Communicative English. Last session was left on to be begin with modes of communication. Before we move on, I would like to say something. Communication improves every day if you don't fall short of for words. Like, for example, if I say, I really appreciate apricity, I love apricity. So, what do I mean? Basically, apricity means the warmth of the winter sun, basking in the warmth of the winter sun. So basically, everybody likes the winter sun. Like whenever you have free time, you go to your balcony, your terrace, or to your garden to enjoy that. But the technical term for it, or rather a good vocabulary for it, is apricity. So learning one word or two words and then using them so that you remember them even improves your communication. Language is learned and acquired. And because English is our second language, it's an international language. So that is why you have to work hard in it. You have to improve yourself. Every day you have to learn something or the other. If somebody says that your English can be improved by reading newspapers, then, well, it's a good idea, but I wouldn't. I'm not very appreciative of it. Because you know what happens, the kind of vocabulary the editor has, we stand nowhere. And reading newspaper is not that very interesting. I'm sorry to say for the mass comm people, but it's really not very interesting for every day. If you have a habit, it's very good. But if you want to improve your English, it's not that very appreciable exercise. What you can do is you can begin with short stories. You can read your notes very carefully. And if you come across any term, make sure that you refer to the dictionary. It really improves your language, the diction, and the spellings. It does. It makes a lot of difference. You have to work hard on yourself because communication is an art, it's a skill. And what you communicate is more important, but how you communicate is more important. So, we'll get back on our topic for today, that is modes of communication. Let's continue. I'm going to share your notes, and as usual, you can use them as primary source, secondary source, or just to refer. But make sure that you stick to the syllabi. If you need to research some more, doesn't make any difference. But don't worry about the notes; they'll be shared on the Google Classroom. So right now, I'm going to share the screen. So over to the screen. Modes of communication. Modes, or you can say medium or channel that you are using to communicate. Okay, so the medium or channel through which we communicate, intent is expressed, is known as mode of communication. Typical communication modes include natural speech, facial expression, and gestures. Modes include use of graphics, symbol, synthetic speech. Communication generally draws on multiple modes such as vocalization, speech, gesture, and symbols, and it is referred to as multimodal. So what happens is like if I want to communicate something, like suppose I'm in a conference and I need to tell that how many people are educated, how many people are uneducated, how many people can to an extent read and write, but they're not educated, they're literate. How many people are totally illiterate, they don't even know how to write their name, they even can't uh, tell me one alphabet from the whole alphabet section. Okay, so if I want to tell somebody that, then I'll have to use a graph, a pie chart. So that is how I can communicate. Even I can communicate through a symbol. Like suppose if I'm teaching you in the class and a student comes to the door and he wants to give something very important, I simply he knocks and I simply cue him to come inside. I don't say any word, and I take the envelope from him and I don't say anything. And I ask him to leave. Or if somebody comes to ask me something, and I make the symbol or to the wave of my hand, I say later. So that is how I'm communicating. That time, my mode of communication is what? Non-verbal communication. Now, what I'm going to discuss here is the mode of communication. And in that mode of communication, my first topic will be oral communication. It implies communication done with mouth. It includes individual conversing with each other in direct conversation or telephonic conversation. Speeches, presentations, discussions are all forms of oral communication. It is generally recommended when communication matters is of temporary kind or where a direct interaction is required, maybe face to face, like meetings, lectures, conferences, interviews that are significant to us build a repo or trust. Repo basically means relationship. So if you want to build up a relationship, then even what you need is kind of face-to-face communication. Like you cannot communicate when there is no understanding between the people. Repo is build a relationship of trust. Okay? Next, if I say, then what are the advantages of oral communication? Like before moving on to the advantages, one must understand that oral communication. You don't have to misunderstand. Oral communication can be face to face. For example, if I'm talking to you in the class, that is face to face. But if you have any problem during the exams and you call me, you have my number and you call me. That is the telephonic conversation. That's again an oral conversation. Right now, I'm giving you a lecture. That is even an oral communication. So you have to understand it can be face to face and it cannot be face to face. And there are advantages and disadvantages of every mode of communication. If we talk about the advantages of oral communication, there is a high level of understanding and transparency in oral communication as it is interpersonal communication. Because what happens is that oral communication, there is a scope for understanding and oral communication because interpersonal relations are involved. You cannot hide your inner feelings. As I told you, the body cannot be you cannot lie through your paralysis because your tone will change, your volume will change, the intonation will change, the rising and the falling of the and rising and the falling of the tone will change. The pitch will differ from the normal pitch. So if you talk of the advantage of oral communication, then you can have a lot of understanding. Transparency can be created. Trust can be built. There is no element of rigidity in oral communication. If I'm talking on something, it's flexible, more flexible. What happens is that it allows you to change from one to the other according to the decisions taken previously or later. You can take different decisions and you can take on to your conversation. You can move it to a higher level or a lower level or an entirely different direction. What happens in oral communication is flexible. You need not to be rigid. For example, if I'm teaching in the class, like in the last session, third session, if you remember, I was talking about context. I told you an anecdote. I shared an anecdote. That is somewhere this flexibility of the communication. What happens is that I can give examples. I can switch off and I can switch on to the top. That is the flexibility element. Then feedback. Feedback is spontaneous. For example, classroom teaching is very instantaneous. Like suppose if I ask somebody, "Have you understood?" And if somebody questions that, can you please explain this topic again? Can you please illustrate? Can you please elucidate? Can you please be more explanatory on this aspect? So what happens is that I can continue. I can come back to the topic and explore a bit, throw more light on it, and then move on. In that case, I have its feedback is extraneous. Like on spontaneity, the student reacts that no, I have not. So please explain it. again. So plus decisions can be made quickly without communicating. Like instead of moving on to the fresh topic and waste my time when my student has not understood the previous one, what I can do is that we go back, quickly explain, and then come back. This way, when the student has understood what was in the beginning, then he will be able to comprehend better what's coming ahead. Now, oral communication is not only time saving, it even saves your time and money and how. Listen, example, if I need to write a mail, then I'll need a computer, I'll need Wi-Fi or internet, I'll need a mobile, but for oral communication, I need not spend time, I need not spend money, effort, or anything. I just come to you, I start talking. Do I need to spend some money? No. Do I need certain efforts? Make certain efforts? No. I'm not spending any other thing. I'm not making any effort or money, or it's even saving my time. By the time I type one sentence, by that time I would have spoken three, four. So it is very time saving, money saving, and efforts. Oral communication is best in case of problem resolution. The conflicts, the disputes, and many issues and differences can be put to an end by talking them. Like suppose if you have some kind of a misconception, or if you have some kind of misunderstanding, or you have rather not understood anything, you can come up to the sender, or in fact, take my example. If you have any query, you can come to me, and you can then and there resolve your problem. But suppose if you delay and rally, if you don't discuss it, then what will happen? It will remain there. Oral communication gives you this thing that without delay, you can mitigate the differences and disputes, issues and differences. Oral communication is an essential for teamwork in group activity. Like in the last session, I gave you the example of teamwork of seven. So unless and until you have that communication, you don't orally communicate with each other. You don't vocalize your feelings, your ideas. How will the others know about it? Just listen. There is no concept of trade. Nobody can read your mind. Nobody is a mind reader. There is nothing like mind reading. Are you getting my point? You have to vocalize. You have to express what's going on in your mind. Otherwise, the group suffers. The communication on the whole suffers. Now, keeping these things in mind, you have to communicate. Like oral communication has sometimes it's time taking. Time taking in the sense like there is a concept of time robbers. Have you come across this term? Time robbers. Yes, they are time robbers. They rob you of your valuable time. Is the most valuable entity we have here. But sometimes time rob us of this time. They take away our time. Now, oral communication is essential for teamwork, as I told you. Oral communication promotes a receptive, encouraging morale among organizational environments. Like, oral communication plays a very vital role when you are communicating with people and you are increasing their morale or motivation. Motivation, listening to a motivational lecture is far more effective than reading motivation. It varies, though it may vary from person to person, but listening to motivational lectures is very effective. Like the other day, I was going to a video where the owner of it was talking to his employees, and he said that don't lose your heart over this lockdown issue. It's temporary phase. We'll definitely note about this company. The company will get back to its original shape, maybe better than this. So don't worry. This time will even pass. But the speaker was quite motivated. So oral communication encourages you, it increases your morale, fires you up. Oral communication can be best used to transfer private and confidential information and matters. Like suppose if I want to tell you the PIN code of my ATM, I have no intention of telling you, so please. But if I have to tell you, then I won't give it to you in written. I will share it to you orally. I'll whisper it in your ear, like go and get me this money. I don't give it in written. Like suppose if I want to tell something very confidential to my friend, I know something and it is really very confidential. Will I give it to her in written? I'm not going to. I'm just going to tell her orally. I'll use words for that. I won't pass on that file to her because every coin has two sides. So if the oral communication has its advantages, oral communication has its disadvantages. Relying only on oral communication may not be sufficient as business communication is very and very fast. I don't remember, but I think in the second or the first session, I talked about credibility. So credibility of communication is when you put it in. What's the viability? It's viable because you cannot go back on that. It's written, it's formal, it's very well organized, and business is not run on words. Yes, your goodwill matters. Still, written communication matters the most when it comes to business because you cannot say, I'll pay you 40 crores soon. You have to do it in written. In what time period will you pay it? Okay? Oral communication is less authentic than written communication as important and not as authentic as written communication. For example, if I ask you to share your views on, say, interpersonal communication and interpersonal communication. Now, if you are writing something on intrapersonal communication and interpersonal communication, you will take time to think that what should you write first so that it can be very effective. It can be a very good beginning. You want to give it a good launch. But if I make you stand in the class on a spur of a moment and on an impromptu, I say that, okay, son, start telling me something about intrapersonal communication. What will you? You'll start with whatever you remember. It may be in inductive order or in deductive order, in increasing order of importance or decreasing order of importance. The topic sentence can come in the beginning, or topic sentence can come nowhere, or in the end, or in the middle. So written is more organized. I suppose if you are writing an answer, it's more organized than narrating it orally. Now, oral communication is time saving as far as daily interactions are concerned. But in cases of meetings, long speeches, they consume a lot of time and they are quite unproductive at times. What happens is that when you are working on an organization, you'll see that minutes of the meeting are made. For example, if somebody finds that this matter is not related to me, then they may end up in their reverie, in their thoughts. But when they come back, they realize that half the thing is over and it was related to them. So, going through minutes of the meeting, they can come to it. There is this concept of communication selectivity. Communication selectivity means that when somebody is talking, like for example, if I'm teaching in a class and I'm giving an example, and you feel that you have understood the concept and you don't need to know this example, and you end up in your own world thoughts, in your reverie, you're sailing on some night cloud glory. And by the time you come back, you realize that I am on something very important. You missed it. But then again, somewhere I start giving a common or usual example, and then you again fall back in your reverie. So what happens is when you come back, you realize it again. You have missed something very important. Which test was ma'am talking about? What test was ma'am talking about? And by the time you realize I've left the class, you keep asking people, what was I talking about? Which test did I speak about? Because you were lost in your class. So this happens that when you are, in communication selectivity mode, you tend to miss on things. Sometimes it happens due to the unproductiveness of the long oral communications. Oral communication is not easy to maintain. Thus, it is unstable. Like for how long can you maintain a conversation? Like communication today is done through mails. Like I write a mail, you reply back to that mail, and then I reply back to your mail. then you reply back to my mail. What happens is that a trail is maintained. So in that case, the context is very clear and the records are even very clear. But oral interactions are very, unstable. They may lead to misunderstanding and information may not be complete and may lack the essentials. Like the other day, I was speaking to somebody and they told me the date, the place, and they kept the phone. Then I WhatsApped them for the complete workshop. And it came with a complete detail that we went on this date, this time, this place. When the communication was done orally, they skipped on it. If I don't know the time, so what do you expect me to remain there online for 24 hours? So essentials sometimes missed in communication. But you check your own self. Ask yourself when you are texting to someone, don't you re-go through the text? Don't you edit the text? Don't you read the text again and again before sending it? If you are sending something in draft. But if you are, chatting informally and you feel that you have made a mistake, you make a star and then you make a correction. That is which cannot be maintained in communication. It may, it can lead to a number of misunderstandings because when you are being verbal, so you're using too many words, it may lack the completeness because you may skip on something very important. It requires attentiveness and great receptivity on the part of the receiver and the audience. What happens is that it requires a lot of attention. You cannot just be casual about it. And like you cannot expect somebody to be attentive for a number of long hours. You tend to lose interest and you even tend to get tired. There are other factors, even we'll study in barriers to communication. Oral communication, such as speeches, is not frequently used in legal reports except investigation. Like suppose if you are being investigated on certain things, then only oral communication is taken into consideration. Otherwise, this written communication is taken. When records are of statements are to be made, they are in written communication. But when normal investigation is made, then only it's oral. Otherwise, you cannot have a legal proof because there is no this longevity of oral communication. As I've already told you, there is no credibility. Credibility and credibility is of the written communication. Now we come to the written communication, the second one. Communication. It is of great significance in today's business. It is an innovative activity of the mind. Effective written communication is essential for preparing worthy material for business development. Speech came before writing. Yes, speech came before writing. You have to remember this. That writing came later. People started using speech. For example, the folklores, the Vedas, they were actually passed on from one generation to another through oral communication. It was quite later when the script came that they started writing. Otherwise, the students from various walks of life, from various this stratas of life was sent to the Mughals. They learned Vedas and they came back, and then in turn they taught the Vedas to the next generation. So this is how the baton of culture and literature and language was passed on from one to another generation. But when script came into life, then it became more reliable and valid. But while speech is spontaneous, writing causes a lot of delays, even takes time, as immediate feedback is not possible. Like suppose right now, mm, if if I ask you in the class, like I've taught on Monday, 11 to 12, and if I ask you, have you understood something? And you immediately tell me, ma'am, please explain this portion again. But at the end of the week, if I give you a feedback form to fill, that what topic have you not understood? Will it not take time? It has already taken 6 days. But on the contrary, if I devote every last 5 minutes of my lecture to your problem solving, then that problem can be dealt up with then and there. But then, advantages of written communication are even there. It helps in laying down apparent principles, policies, and rules for running an organization. Because unless and until rules and regulations are written, we don't follow them. It's a permanent means of communication. Like you don't have to learn the Vedas anymore; they are written. You can have n number of copies. It is very useful where record maintenance is required. Like suppose your mark sheets, your records, like your notes. These are all in written communication. Why? Because whatever I'm talking, you won't be able to remember. But if you get a hard copy or your soft copy of the notes that I'm displaying on the screen right now, they have their longevity, they have their validity. You can keep them. You can use them at any time, and you can maintain them accordingly. It assists proper delegation of responsibilities. For example, if I've made a group of 7 people to do a certain task, then if I've written in front of the name that they are responsible for this, then it's in written. So the responsibility has been delegated to them. They'll have to continue. On the grounds of the speech, it can be taken back by the speaker or maybe refused to be acknowledged. Like suppose if you tell me, ma'am, you told me that I'll be the leader of the team. Have I given it in written? I have not given it in written. So I can always take my words back and say, no, no, I never meant that. I have changed. But once I have given it to him, I cannot take it back. Even if I ask you that, please do this work, you are supposed to do the research work, you can definitely say, ma'am, I don't know, I never heard. Did you take my name that day? Was I supposed to do that work? I don't know, ma'am. Sorry, I didn't hear you. Because you can very well deny me, very well refuse to acknowledge that I told you this. Written communication is more precise and explicit. It provides records and references. It can enhance the image of the organization. But as I already told you, that every coin has two faces. So it has its advantages and so it has its disadvantages. Written communication does not save up time or cost. Sometimes it may cost huge in terms of stationery, manpower employed in writing and typing and delivery. For example, if I choose to deliver data, I need an envelope, I need a pen, I need a paper, I need stamp, and then I need somebody to go and post the letter. Then I need that some person to deliver to sort that letter. Then I need somebody to put them in the train or on the airmail. And then I need somebody to receive it. And then I need somebody to sort it according to the receiver's address. And then I need somebody to deliver it according to the receiver. So it takes a lot of time and money. And of course, the use of stationery is involved. Also, the receiver of the written messages are separated by distance, and if they need to clear their doubts, the response is not spontaneous. For example, if the written communication, if you talk about the written communication through letter, I have written this letter, I have posted this letter, and this letter has reached somebody in a time of say 7 days. So, if that person has some doubt and he replies to that letter, it will take another 7 8 days to reach me. And then if I'll reply, it will take another 7 8 days to reach. So, it's time taking, it's not immediate. Effective written communication requires great skill and competencies in language and vocabulary use. Poor writing skills and quality have negative impact on organizations' reputation. Like a lot of skill is required, competency of language is required. You need to have a good vocabulary. You cannot write in plain language. You cannot. There is a need to be grammatically correct and have good spelling. And even if you're giving it in writing, then you have to have a very good handwriting because the reputation of the organization is at stake. You cannot just be complacent about it. You cannot put it for something else. You cannot procrastinate. Too much paperwork and emails involve a lot of burden. Like, for example, if there is too much of written work, there is too much of emails every day, it will create you a burden. It will stress you at the end. On the contrary, if some communication which can be done only should be done only to avoid written communication, a lot of reading, stress, sending and receiving. The third mode of communication is electronic. A vital concept to the virtual organization is ability to communicate purely electronically, eliminating the need for physical contact and allowing the geographical dispersion of organizational workers. Online collaborations via email, discussion boards, chat, and other methods, as well as telephonic and SML communication, as primary contributors to the removal of typing space in this new organizational concept. Like, for example, if you are working in an organization, Then you can communicate through voicemail, email, discussion boards, chats, and other means. You could even resort to telephone and fax. But it will take, save your time, and the problem of space can even be dealt with. Now, web page. Web page is a very popular type of media content. World Wide Web users post content on websites so others can use. Like it happens when you want to search something, you search on the web. The content may be simple text. It may also contain multimedia files, images, sounds, videos, or streaming. Web content is pulled from the web by users who are seeking information. Now we talk about web. Web content is pulled out from the web by the user seeking information rather than pushed to subscribe. While not as permanent as traditional media like paper, web pages can archive information for extended period. Like for example, if something has been put on a web, it can be retained for years. Like you can access it even anytime. Paper has its limitations. Email or electronic mail, it is originally intended to imitate physical mail. Messages are delivered from one specific address to another address. They are the receiver is alerted, and it is instantaneous. Like it takes just say a part of second or a second, not sometimes a couple of seconds to reach the mail. You can even, it's a very good way of keeping track of the conversation that include multiple people who use of threads. Thus, email is ideally suited for involved conversation between two people or groups of people because you can even add people on the email forum. Like suppose I can add 5 people or 10 people accordingly for the use. Like if I say that I need email 7 8 people uh, every time. So what I can do is that I can form a group. Or while writing the mail, I can add people in the addresses. Forums, like conversations can go on indefinitely, involving a large number of people, or need to be archived are not well suited to email. Forum often posted on the web, providing an alternative that combines many of the aspects of emails and web. They involve discussion around a single, limited topic that can take place over months or years and involve dozens or even hundreds of participants. Most use tree-like structure that allows participants to jump in it at whatever level their comments are most like. If if it's not possible for you to have uh, email, you can create a forum. Around forum, you can conduct discussions so that large number of people can be benefited. It's somewhat like a tree structure. Text and instant messaging, like cellular airwaves and protocols to deliver text message from one cellular to another. It's like if you text, if you resort to texting or if you resort to WhatsApp. This is like instant texting, instant messaging. That the message is sent, single tick, received, double tick. If it's read, it's a double blue tick. So what happens is that the receiver comes to know that at least the message has been delivered, it has been received, and it has been read. You don't have to wait to get the feedback of the receiver that I have received your message. Just by the number of ticks and the color, you come to know that the receiver has received the message. You can even have a private discussion, and there is no chance of you getting overheard on the phone because you are resorting to texting unless and until somebody is standing in close proximity who can read your screen, can only get to know what you are texting or messaging. Social networking. It's a very popular networking of communication available these days. It facilitates communication among people with common interests and affiliations. Sites such as Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, you know, these provide places for people to interact sometimes in real life. Microblogging services like Twitter allow short text-through messages of not more than 140 characters to be broadcast to a large audience. Unlike text messages which are delivered to a small group of people, microblog posts are intended to be seen by all the users and followers. A widely reposted message is called viral post. You say that it's quite widely. So what it is actually when the widely reposted message is called widely post. It is a very important definition and you must remember. Video chat. Video chat is one, again one of the very favorite among people. If you take the example of lockdown during Corona, then it was a very important aspect. Everybody used it. It was like it is more impactful than instant messaging, talking to somebody on the phone. But video chat is it's just like face to face conversation, and it provides a lot of immediacy to a conversation because people's tone is often easier to read when you can see their face. Businesses often use teleconferencing to aid in virtual meetings. Like sometimes what happens is that the communication is not possible. Like in certain with the advent of technology, things have become very easy. It's a boon to the society. What happens is that earlier people were called for personal interviews to Dubai, to America, to UK, even to the remotest part of the country or to the end of the country where, like somebody is staying in Jammu, the person was called to Kanyakumari or to Chennai or to Puducherry for an interview. But what happens is that the distances are really very long. How could people reach out? The travel, the expense, the time it took, it was really very cumbersome. So what happened is that with the advent of technology, what happened is teleconferencing. So earlier people used to, resort to telephonic interviews. In my generation, telephonic interviews are very popular. But sometimes you could judge the personality of the person. So now what's the advantage of teleconferencing or video conferencing is that you can see the face of the person, you can see the personality of that person, you can read the person's body language and how they are reacting, how they are talking, how they are, how is their verbal and non-verbal communication, how do they hold their body, a number of things. So it takes, it is a step ahead. Communication has even improved from its history of being engraved on the cave walls. It has come to speech. Then it went on to this, what you call, script. And then we have come to use of technology. So what happens is that everything has changed. Communication over the period of time has become the soul of our living. Unless and until we communicate, things don't very become very clear to us. Communication is the soul of day-to-day life. You have to go through intrapersonal communication, and then you have to communicate interpersonally. People even resort to mass communication. They read newspapers. The elders in the family, they read the newspapers, and at breakfast table they tell you the news. They want to make you aware of the world. You read books. Books are still popular. Reading is very popular. It hasn't lost its magic. But then, when you read something and then you visualize and then you think over it, that is what interpersonal is all about. But when I discuss that book with somebody, it becomes interpersonal communication. But when I end up in a group discussion on that particular topic, it becomes a group communication. But if I write a post on it, it becomes a mass media communication because I'm writing something on the um, in the newspaper. But if I write it on Twitter, if I express my views on Facebook, then it becomes a social networking. So the shape of communication has changed, but the actuality of the communication hasn't changed. It is which mode do you resort to, but you have to resort to some of the other communication mode because you have to express yourself. And expression is an important thing. And for that, you need language. And you need command over language as well as grammar. Thank you so much. This we come to an end of our session 4. I'll be back soon and we'll be discussing barriers to communication. Because communication is always affected. It's sometimes badly affected, and sometimes it just works like a trigger. So barriers are very important to discuss because having a smooth communication is different thing, but having a barrier in between gives you the importance, tells you something about the importance of communication. We'll be discussing it in my next session. So stay safe, and see you soon in my next session on barriers to communication. Thank you so much. Bye.